Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of The Jamie Hughes Show. My name as always is Jamie Hughes and today I'm going to be giving you my review of Venom. Now if you want to keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and as always with my videos this review may include spoilers, so you have now been warned. So I was genuinely surprised by how much I actually enjoyed Venom. Don't get me wrong, it has some issues and they are some pretty major issues, but for the most part it won me over, did Venom. I actually quite enjoyed this movie. I would say it's less a turd in the wind and more a fart in the breeze. That's the best way I can sum this movie up. But one of the things that I really enjoyed about Venom, and I was very apprehensive about this, especially from what I had seen in the trailers, is that they actually nailed the action sequences in this film. They really like brought me back from the brink of this movie. I really loved the first kind of initial interaction we got with Venom and Eddie Brock, where we got the huge fight scene in the apartment, and then that spread out and spilled out onto the streets of San Francisco. I thought it was really well paced, really well put together, and it really kind of put me on the edge of my seat, which I didn't expect. It was a very fun and creative little sequence, and yeah, it worked really well. I also think kind of the other sequence worked well, the other big action sequence, which was in like the building around the lifts where we got like all of the smoke grenades going off. I thought that worked well. It was kind of another element of action. It didn't feel like it was just like they were copy and pasting from the previous scene, if that makes sense. They still had some levels of originality in it, and yeah, for the most part I really enjoyed these action sequences. Again, even like the one towards the end of the movie with the big kind of battle between Riot and Venom. You know, we'd seen the trailer for that and the CGI didn't look great, but I thought, again, it held up quite well, and it was surprising how well that final fight sequence actually worked. Another thing that again worked well, it's just like there's loads of things in this movie that shouldn't have worked but actually did, and another one of those is Tom Hardy's performance. Right, I'm going to talk about it in a negative light in a moment, but let's talk about it in the positives. What I thought was a really big positive for this movie is that I really enjoyed the chemistry and the relationship between the symbiote of Venom and Eddie Brock. The way he was kind of really erratic, and the way that he was on edge, and the way he was like addressing and talking to Venom, I thought that really worked well for the character, and it worked in that context where he had, you know, he had Venom talking to him, he had him influencing him. Even the weird kind of kiss scene worked in a sense. It was very odd, but it still kind of worked for me. And yeah, I really loved Tom Hardy's performance once he had been infected by the symbiote, and he was kind of, as I say, he was on edge. I think within the context of all of that, that worked, and him looking really odd and erratic worked. And yeah, it was a pretty decent performance from Hardy. But on the other side of that, and it kind of tying 2 points together here, is that I really didn't like the first half of this movie, and maybe more the first hour of this movie, because it really didn't sell this film at all. It was very kind of clunky. It really kind of trudged through the story. It didn't really get going for me until Tom Hardy and Venom kind of became one. Where he broke into the lab and the symbiote attacked him. That's where it kind of, this movie kind of started to pull it back for me. But that first kind of hour and 10 minutes or so was very weak. And again, to go back to the point of Tom Hardy's performance, is that he was almost kind of erratic at that point very early on, and it didn't make sense for the character, and that's where it started to come off like a little bit cheesy and a little bit overacted, and yeah, it just didn't really work for me, that. And to go back to that first hour of the film, it is a real shame, because it really did let this movie down, because as I say, everything just felt like lazy about it. The script was really lazy. The performances didn't seem too great. I think, as I said, Tom Hardy grew into it, and I think Riz Ahmed did as well. But I think the biggest shame for me in this movie, and I don't think it's any fault of her own, is that Michelle Williams felt really wasted in this film, which was a shame to see, because I thought, you know, she could have brought something really kind of fresh and something different to this role, but they really phoned her in. Like, she didn't really have many great lines, and she she didn't have many chances to shine. And this is not me having a dig at Michelle Williams at all. I think she's a great actress. I just felt like she didn't really have a lot to do in this movie, and I think that's more of a script writing issue than a performance issue. And to go back to that script, as I said, it just let this film down in the first half of the movie. I keep mentioning it, but it was just so dumb. Like, it really dragged this movie down, and I can see why so many people are saying that Venom is terrible, because luckily enough for me, the kind of second hour of this movie really won it back. But yeah, it's definitely very lazy writing, and I think that does kind of bleed over into the latter part of the movie as well, because there are some scenes where, you know, you are starting to build towards this big heroic crescendo towards the film's climax, and we do get some very jarring, like, couple of one-liners from Venom, from Eddie, which really just kind of, they were jarring. They just really took me out of the moment. They didn't really work, and they didn't really suit what the characters were trying to do at that specific moment in time. Now, I've mentioned it earlier on in this review, but I thought the turd in the wind line kind of worked in context. You know, it's towards the end of the movie. It was kind of establishing the ground rules between Venom and Eddie, and I think that worked. But there was a lot of really bad dialogue in this movie as well. So that is my review of Venom. As I said, I'm not going to stand here and say it's terrible, because it's not, and I'm not going to stand here and say it was amazing, because it's not. It was fine. It was fun entertainment. I really kind of wish they'd gone like all out with this movie and made it big dumb fun, because I think a lot of people would maybe have appreciated it a bit more. I think in points it did try to take itself a little bit too seriously, and as I said in my review, there are some jarring moments that really take you out of this movie. But, you know, overall, I was pleasantly surprised by Venom. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I was going to. And I would definitely recommend, I know there's lots of reviews out there, but I would really go and make your mind up on this movie, because there are a lot of negative reviews for Venom, and there are a lot of wholehearted positive reviews for Venom as well. And it does look like Venom is going to be one of the most divisive movies of the year. But as I said, I would really recommend that you guys go and check it out for yourself. And if you have already seen Venom, then let me know what you thought about it, as always, down in those comments below. And if you did enjoy this video and you want to keep up to date with all the latest movie news and reviews, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the very next episode of The Jamie Hughes Show. Ta-ra!